Money is not just arithmetic, it becomes location. Modern economic life does not sit outside the human nervous system. We often talk about money as if it is just numbers: income, bills, rent, debt, credit, savings, interest, assets, and expenses. But beneath the arithmetic, money is also experienced as safety, movement, dignity, and belonging. Can I stay housed? Can I keep the car running? Can I feed my family? Can I survive an emergency? Can I leave this job? Can I get medical care? Can I be seen without shame? Can I still belong? Under capitalism, almost every basic human need is routed through market access: food, shelter, healthcare, transportation, education, communication, legal access, childcare, social participation, and even healing are mediated by money. That means capitalism is not only an economic system, it is also an exterior regulatory field. It shapes how much agency a person feels they have. It shapes how much security they can access. It shapes how much uncertainty their nervous system must carry every day. A person facing eviction is not merely managing a housing issue. Their body is receiving a survival signal. A person drowning in debt is not merely dealing with math. Their future freedom is being narrowed. A person who cannot afford medical care is not merely delayed in treatment. Their body learns that safety is conditional. This is where NSSF enters the economic discussion. The question is not simply whether capitalism is good or bad. The deeper question is, how does the economic field shape agency, inner security, worth, and identity? Because when money becomes the gatekeeper of safety, money also becomes part of the self-location system. The economic field tells the person where they stand. And when standing becomes unstable, the self can begin to shake. Markets are not the wound. Predation begins when insecurity becomes profit. NSSF does not require a simplistic anti-capitalist argument. Markets are not automatically pathological. Ownership is not automatically pathological. Ambition, work, trade, comfort, prosperity, beauty, innovation, and material enjoyment are not automatically signs of capture. A person can work from authorship. A person can build from authorship. A person can buy from authorship. A person can own from authorship. A person can enjoy prosperity without being controlled by it. The problem begins at the predatory edge. That edge appears when the market stops merely serving human need and begins locating human insecurity. This is the difference between a person buying a vehicle because they need safe transportation and a person being recruited into debt because they feel worthless without a visible status symbol. The market becomes predatory when it learns how to convert wound into revenue. Aging fear becomes a beauty market. Class shame becomes a status market. Loneliness becomes an attention market. Provider anxiety becomes a performance market. Body shame becomes a correction market. Parental guilt becomes a child achievement market. Economic fear becomes a credit market. Identity instability becomes a lifestyle market. The market does not need to create every wound. It only needs to locate the wound and offer something purchasable. That is the key distinction. The wound is not the existence of commerce. The wound is market-mediated predation, the conversion of human insecurity, fracture, shame, longing, or vulnerability into recurring profit. And once that mechanism is visible, consumer culture begins to look very different. It is no longer merely selling products. It is selling temporary relief from the feeling of not being enough. When human fracture becomes recurring profit, market-mediated predation is one of the central terms in this economic layer of NSSF. It names the process by which economic systems identify human insecurity and convert it into predictable behavior. The person feels lack. The market offers a symbol. The person buys relief. The relief fades. The market offers the next symbol. This can happen through advertising, social media, branding, credit systems, lifestyle comparison, professional ranking, beauty standards, status objects. algorithmic attention, and debt-financed aspiration. The system studies the person's vulnerability. What makes them feel behind? What makes them feel undesirable? What makes them feel poor? What makes them feel unsuccessful? What makes them feel unchosen? What makes them feel like a failed provider? What makes them feel socially exposed? Then it offers an answer. Buy this, upgrade this, finance this, wear this, drive this, post this, become this, prove this. Predatory consumerism does not always arrive as cruelty. Often it arrives as encouragement. Be better. Treat yourself. Level up. Invest in yourself. Create your dream life. Some of that language can be healthy. Growth is real. Discipline is real. Beauty is real. Aspiration can be authored. But predatory aspiration is different. It makes ordinary life feel like a defect. The person is not invited into deeper authorship. The person is made restless inside the current self. The home is not enough. The body is not enough. The car is not enough. The clothes are not enough. The relationship is not enough. The vacation is not enough. The job title is not enough. The story is not enough. This is manufactured insufficiency. The market manufactures the felt absence that the product is then positioned to solve. And this is why the predatory consumer field is so powerful. It does not merely satisfy desire, it shapes desire. It teaches the person where to feel incomplete. Consumerism becomes a false caregiver. Buy this. Become enough. In NSSF, the esteem loop begins in early life. The child learns what gets them seen, approved of, protected, valued, or rejected. The child learns whether need is safe, whether failure is tolerated, whether poverty invites shame, whether achievement brings love, whether appearance matters, whether being impressive protects against humiliation. Those early signals become part of the person's internal map. Consumer culture hijacks that map. It imitates the caregiver field. It says, the right clothes will make you visible. The right car will make you respectable. The right body will make you desirable. The right house will make you legitimate. The right phone will keep you current. The right vacation will make you enviable. The right brand will make you belong. The market becomes a false caregiver. It offers recognition without intimacy, belonging without mutuality, repair without metabolization, esteem without actual healing. This creates the consumer esteem loop. First, the person feels shame, comparison, exclusion, invisibility, or inferiority. Then, the market offers a symbolic object as proof of value. The person purchases, displays, upgrades, performs, or finances the symbol. Temporary esteem relief occurs, but the underlying wound remains unmet. Then, new comparison appears, and the person must return to the market for another symbolic rescue. This is not merely materialism. This is regulatory dependence through consumption. The product becomes an esteem prosthetic. It helps the person stand socially for a moment where the inner structure still feels weak. But because the wound has not been metabolized, the relief decays. The person must buy again, upgrade again, display again, prove again. That is why consumerism can feel so compulsive. The person is not always chasing the object. Often, they are chasing relief from the state the object was positioned to resolve. The market whispers, come here, buy this, become enough. But the object cannot make the person enough. It can only decorate the wound. Ordinary life made to feel incomplete. Manufactured insufficiency is one of the quietest and most powerful mechanisms in consumer culture. It is the feeling that ordinary life is not enough. Not because the person freely discovered a deeper desire, but because the field around them keeps signaling deficiency. Your body needs correction. Your home needs upgrading. Your children need more achievement. Your relationship needs a better image. Your career needs a better title. Your face needs improvement. Your car needs replacing. Your clothes need updating. Your life needs proof. The person begins to experience the present self as unfinished, not in a healthy developmental way, but in a shame-driven way. This is where the line between aspiration and capture becomes important. Aspiration says, I am building something aligned with my authored life. Capture says, I must become something else before I am worthy of being seen. Aspiration expands agency. Capture recruits insecurity. This is why NSSF does not shame the consumer. The question is not, did you buy something? The question is, what state was driving the purchase? Was it authored desire or shame relief? Was it aligned with values or comparison panic? Did it increase agency or did it claim future freedom? Would I still want this if nobody saw it? That question matters because consumer culture often teaches people to confuse visibility with worth. The person may not want the object itself. They may want the feeling of being safe in the social mirror. They may want to feel less poor, less behind, less undesirable, less ordinary, less invisible, less exposed. Manufactured insufficiency makes the person feel that the current self is not socially survivable. Then the market offers symbolic repair. But symbolic repair is not the same as sovereignty. It may soothe the wound for a moment, but it does not restore authorship. Comparison, shame, compensation, relief, comparison. Keeping up with the Joneses is usually treated as envy or vanity, but NSSF sees something deeper. The Joneses are not merely neighbors. They are the imagined social mirror. They are the co-worker in the parking lot, the sibling with the better house, the influencer with the better body, the couple with the perfect photos, the parent with the more impressive children, the contractor with the newer truck, the professional with the better title, the friend who appears to have arrived. The person sees visible signs of success, and the nervous system translates comparison into value threat. I am behind. I am less than. I am not impressive. I am losing rank. I am exposed. I am not safe in the social field. That is the Joneses loop. Comparison activates value threat. Value threat produces shame load. Shame load creates pressure for symbolic compensation. The person buys, displays, achieves, upgrades, posts, performs, or finances. Temporary relief occurs, then comparison returns, the loop begins again. This is not simply wanting nice things. This is a social regulatory circuit. The person is trying to restore location. They're trying to feel like they have not fallen out of the field of respect, desirability, or belonging. But the tragedy is that the Joneses may also be captured. Their visible image may conceal debt, exhaustion, loneliness, marital collapse, panic, addiction, depression, medication, or private despair. Consumer culture does not make people compete with reality. It makes people compete with edited surfaces. And that is why the loop is so destructive. The person compares their inner load to someone else's outer performance. Their private struggle is measured against a public image. Then the market offers a way to close the gap. But the gap is not real in the way the person thinks it is. It is a manufactured mirror. Debt converts present esteem relief into future agency burden. Debt is one of the major ways consumer capture becomes future burden. Not all debt is destructive. Some debt can increase agency. A mortgage can stabilize housing. A business loan can expand opportunity. A necessary vehicle loan can support employment. An emergency bridge can prevent immediate collapse. Education can open doors when the structure is realistic, but predatory debt works differently. It gives the person access to relief now while quietly claiming future freedom. The object arrives now. The esteem relief arrives now. The symbolic repair arrives now. The burden arrives later. The person buys the car, furniture, vacation, phone, clothing, treatment, credential, event, or lifestyle marker in order to feel less behind. For a moment, the body receives relief. The person feels more respectable, more desirable, more competent, more generous, more safe, more visible. Then the repayment structure begins. Now that the future is partially claimed. The person must work more, rest less, tolerate more, risk less, hide more, and carry the private shame of overextension. This is debt agency transfer. It occurs when present consumption relief becomes future labor obligation, reducing the person's freedom, rest, mobility, and maneuverability. This matters because agency requires margin. Agency is not just an attitude, it requires room. Room to leave, room to pause, room to refuse, room to repair, room to rest, room to risk, room to choose. Debt narrows that room. Heavy debt can trap a person in a humiliating job, delay medical care, keep them in a destructive relationship, block creative risk, suppress moral objection, or turn every unexpected expense into a threat. The object promised freedom. The repayment structure reduced it. When worth must be produced, the body cannot rest. Consumer capitalism does not only shape what people buy, it shapes how people experience work, productivity, and legitimacy. The person does not merely learn, I work in order to live. The person learns, I am what I produce. I am what I earn. I am what I own. I am what I provide. I am what I display. I am what I can prove. This is the productivity worth trap. It is especially heavy for provider role carriers, working class adults, parents, men, formerly incarcerated people, immigrants, entrepreneurs, and anyone carrying class shame, exclusion, or a history of being treated as disposable. The person may not be greedy. They may be trying to outrun humiliation. They may be trying to prove they are not a failure, not weak, not dependent, not disposable, not what the system said they were, not what the family feared they would become, not what the old wound map predicted. In the productivity worth trap, rest begins to feel like failure. Financial struggle feels like personal defect. Illness becomes shameful. Unemployment becomes identity collapse. Asking for help becomes humiliation. The person is not merely earning income. They are trying to earn the right to feel legitimate. This creates chronic regulatory load because the self is always on trial. Every bill, job review, lost hour, slow season, failed opportunity, declined application, or financial setback becomes more than an event. It becomes evidence in the case against the self. The body cannot rest when worth must be continuously produced. And this is where consumerism and productivity fuse. The person works to prove worth, spends to display worth, borrows to maintain worth, and exhausts themselves to avoid the shame of being seen as less. That is not freedom. That is economic identity capture. Market identity fusion and economic self-collapse. The productivity worth trap is the chronic condition, but beneath it is a deeper structural danger, market identity fusion. Market identity fusion occurs when a person's sense of worth, dignity, provider legitimacy, social rank, safety, or belonging becomes structurally dependent on financial position, occupational role, status display, or market performance. In this state, money is no longer merely money. Employment is no longer merely work. Property is no longer merely shelter. A business is no longer merely a venture. A title is no longer merely a title. These become scaffolds of selfhood. The person is not only trying to survive, they are trying to remain someone. And when that scaffold collapses, the person may not experience only financial loss. They may experience self-loss. I lost money becomes I lost worth. I lost status becomes I lost legitimacy. I lost a role becomes I lost myself. I lost a future image becomes I have no future. NSSF names this acute rupture economic self-collapse. It occurs when financial loss, debt, unemployment, public failure, or market ruin is internalized as the simultaneous collapse of personal worth, social identity, provider role, future agency, and legitimate belonging. The person experiences not merely material reversal, but the erasure of the authored self that had been scaffolded by economic position. This is why economic loss can become existentially dangerous. When a society trains people to fuse worth with market position, market collapse can become self-collapse. This is why economic systems cannot be treated as external to mental health. They provide or remove more than money. They provide or remove dignity, social location, provide a legitimacy, and future agency. The restoration question becomes, can the person recover a self that is not identical to the market position they lost? That separation can be life-preserving. Economic sovereignty. The final question is not whether we buy things. The question is whether we are choosing from authorship or being recruited through insecurity. Economic sovereignty does not mean refusing every purchase. It does not mean romanticizing poverty. It does not mean condemning comfort, beauty, ownership, ambition, or prosperity. A sovereign person can still buy, build, own, provide, decorate, travel, improve, invest, and enjoy material life. The issue is not the presence of consumption. The issue is the source of the choice. Is this authored desire or recruited insecurity? Is this purchase connected to my life or to an image of my life? Would I still want this if nobody saw it? Does this increase my agency or does it reduce my future maneuverability? Am I buying utility, beauty, pleasure, safety, and alignment? Or am I buying proof that I am enough? NSSF asks the person to locate the state from which desire arises. When desire is authored, material life can serve agency. When desire is captured by shame, consumption becomes another regulatory trap. And when identity has fused to market position, economic loss must be metabolized carefully so that financial collapse does not become self-collapse. Economic sovereignty begins when the person can participate in the market without allowing the market to become the author of their worth. The market can be a tool. It cannot be the self. And the person becomes freer when they can finally say, I may use money, I may build with money, I may enjoy what money can provide. But my worth does not originate there. My legitimacy does not live there. My authored life cannot be reduced to market position. That is the restoration. Not withdrawal from the world, not hatred of material life, but the recovery of authorship inside a field designed to capture it. So the question is not whether we live inside capitalism. We do. The question is whether we can see the field clearly enough to stop mistaking market position for human value. Use the market as a tool. Do not let it author your worth.